and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 5th day of March 2022. And it's wonderful to have your company on this day. It is a beautiful day, 25 degrees and sunny. And guess what? The Mud Army has been given the go-ahead to start. And there's quite a lot of people who have registered for that, which is quite good to see. But hey, no one can think of the bad news that we're waking up to today. Saint Warne is no more. Yes, very, very hard to even comprehend that. All the messages coming from all around the world, and he was such a unique Australian cricket player.
Gideon, what was your initial thoughts upon hearing the news this morning?
Well, probably disbelief, like everyone. Warne is sort of forever young in our minds. He didn't seem to age all that much in his career. Certainly his performance has never deteriorated, and he's been an ever-present in our lives since the early 1990s. Since ceasing to play, he's been an important media presence, an opinion former, a guaranteed box office, whatever he did. It's hard to imagine a game without Warne at the centre of it. Certainly, cricket felt very different before Warne was around. If you were growing up in Australia in the 1980s, cricket seemed like a very different game. And then Warne came along and everything changed.
Yeah, how big an impact did he really have on the sport of cricket? Because as you say, it was a completely different sport when he entered to when he left.
Yeah, partly that was simply to do with his talent as a leg spinner. He took an art that had been previously regarded as almost anachronistic and turned it into a potent attacking weapon against the grain of the of international cricket, which had become ceaselessly obsessed with fast bowling. But also his capacity for capturing attention and his love of attention, in fact. In some respects, Warne is a very good advertisement for fame. He lived large, he lived well, he enjoyed its trappings, he enjoyed its opportunities. He always seemed to have a healthy sense of the absurd where his own misadventures were concerned. And he was the soul of indiscretion. You could almost be guaranteed that Warne would come along at least once every 18 months and do something that proved fodder for the tabloids.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you think he just managed then? I guess that's probably how he transcended cricket and became one of the most iconic Australians athletes of all time.
I think he never lost that everyman quality about him. We're accustomed these days to cricketers looking like elite athletes. They train hard, they're ruthlessly managed, they're extensively controlled. Warne was always a free spirit and always marched to the beat of his own drum. Sometimes he wasn't even in the band. He made up his own rules, and he could make up his own rules because he was so unique in Australian cricket. He didn't conform to any of the previous types, and he lived and died by his own performances. He also had that incredible capacity for backing himself under pressure. We often talk about great athletes distinguishing themselves by their love of the big occasion. Warne never found a big occasion that he didn't feel himself the solution to. His answer to every predicament was to get the captain to throw him the ball.
And it often certainly worked in his favour. What was his cricketing involvement post his playing career?
Well, as you say, he was sort of a media staple. Whatever Warne said was news. He continued to play after Test cricket, though, and he captained the Rajasthan Royals in the first Indian Premier League and surprisingly won it. So he became a kind of a transitional figure between Test cricket and T20, which was then just emerging as a global phenomenon. And as you say, he occupied every page of the newspaper, front pages, back pages, and middle as well. And also, he's just a great conversation topic. What Warne was doing was something that was always guaranteed to bring a smile to your face. Sometimes one of chagrin, but there was something about watching Shane Warne being Shane Warne that was infinitely captivating.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, Gideon. Hey, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Sorry, so he will be forever missed, knowing how popular he was in India with the Rajasthan rebels as well. He did such wonderfully well, and that spin of his was, very, very unique. So he's sending shock waves all around the world, not right here, but all around, and only 52. So he will be remembered. A genius will be remembered as one of the finest cricketers ever to have played the game. Even England fans are mourning, the torment at the scene and some of the Shane Warne's greater triumphs. So, well, right now here in Queensland, what else has happened? No more masks. So as you can see, we don't regard. So a major easing of Queensland's COVID-19 restrictions came into effect 6 p.m. yesterday. It included the changes to the mask wearing rules and venue density limits. We know there are functions and events, especially within our community, that have been planned, and some of them were cancelled, some are going ahead. The Indian Medical Association of Queensland will hold their function at the Parliament House today. I will be there later for that one as well. So it means Queenslanders will only have to don a mask in certain settings and when they cannot socially distance. So what's new? So masks are no longer required in most indoor settings, including workplaces, schools, shops, cafes, restaurants, and pubs. So that is good news because, it was hard, especially in pubs and other places. People did go in with masks and they complied. I can say to an extent, you can't say that 100% compliance was there. People drop their guard and sometimes they slip it out. So they are still required on public transport while visiting airports, on planes, in prisons, and in disability and hospital and aged care settings. So this is where, at the moment, under the current regulations, you are still required to have your mask. Masks are also recommended whenever you can't socially distance. Look, if you have any doubts whatsoever, please wear them. It means that you don't have to now, and as per law, but it is also always good practice if you are in doubt to wear them. Vulnerable members of the community are encouraged to continue wearing one if they want to. So that's what I said. So could this mask make a return? Yes, the door has been left open for mask wearing and return after the flu season. So our Chief Health Officer, John Jarrett, said there was a significant chance that the mask will end the mandatory again at some point. We assume there will be some secondary wave in winter. How large it will be, we don't know. And if we say that the mask wearing is mandatory, we want people to take that seriously. So that is correct. So if a notice has been put out, it must be taken seriously. And right now, there's many of the Mud Army which have now been given the go-ahead. And I know there has been an overwhelming response for people trying to register those ones in. And you can still go to the council site and repair. And if you go on our Facebook page, the link is there as well. So there's, some in the north side, in the south side. Talking about north side, our Hindu Society of Queensland, which is based in Boondall, is having free meals as well. If anyone needs, and if you know of anyone in desperate need, please go to 178 Lyndhurst Road. And of course, they have provided prepared meals to the evacuation centre at the Kedron Wavell Leagues Club there in Chermside as well. So good on them, a wonderful job, and it is a very great initiative that has been undertaken by the Hindu Society of Queensland, situated in Boondall. Well, right now, let's take a quick look at the overview of these floods. This is a little bit old, but taking a look at the overall numbers and the death toll here in Queensland after this big, huge rain event.
The body of a 76-year-old man was found this afternoon near Esk, northwest of Brisbane. He was driving on Sunday afternoon when floodwaters washed his car off the road. Another person remains missing. This destructive weather event brought more rain than the 1974 floods. Lexi Hamilton-Smith begins our coverage.
Blue skies across Brisbane, but down below a murky unknown. As waters recede, the pungent smell of drying mud and decaying debris float up. Enter the Mud Army Mark II, the spirit of Brisbane, generosity, mateship and kindness.
Everyone's been very generous with their time and coming in to help us out, so it's been great.
Volunteer soldiers eager to help flood-weary battlers get back on their feet. Hundreds remain underwater.
It's just been mind-blowing because it's just been so intense.
Businesses too are battling an almighty job ahead.
Cleaning up is the first stage, and then being a customer is the second stage.
Dozens of suburbs remain inundated, the ominous high tides pushing levels higher. They recede only to come up again. At Jindalee, Tara Moffat has been through this before.
I actually was suffering really badly in the last couple of days with PTSD from 2011. I thought the only way I can actually get over this is to get out and help someone.
Here at Milton, there's still hundreds of people in these high-rise apartments stuck with no power. We've seen a mum with a baby. We've seen people fleeing with just a couple of bags. Look, they can get out, but they have to navigate waist-deep water. The managers of the building have told us insurers say the damage bill so far is $250,000 just this building alone, and rising fast.
I have no words. I'm broken now. My friends who've lost businesses, have lost their homes, they've lost everything.
It's heartbreaking. It's not really much else to say. It's heartbreaking, really. Just so many people displaced from their homes.
The army is on its way. The crane that was careering down the raging Brisbane River late yesterday has now been secured, but the enormity of this natural disaster is still sinking in.
That's phenomenal. In 2 to 3 days, 80% of the rainfall that Brisbane would usually receive was during that period.
More than 30 locations across the southeast have received 1,000 millimetres of rain, a drenching greater than the 1974 floods. A ninth person has been found in floodwaters near Esk. Another remains missing.
We do hold grave concerns.
Residents in Brisbane's outer west are still cut off. Supermarket shelves are all but empty. For those losing hope, though, help is here. It will take weeks to clean up the city streets, but the recovery will take years. Lexi Hamilton-Smith, ABC News.
I've spent the day talking to flooded businesses in Albion beside the Brisbane River. Many people say the same thing. They were told it wasn't going to be as bad as 2011, but in fact, it ended up far worse. Some places have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stock.
And everybody was saying it would only come up to here. And so what we did was we sandbagged all the front. We got everything up as high as we could on pallets. We worked here till really late, so it was well past dark. And then we came back. Chantal was back. What time were you back here?
Yeah, by Sunday morning we were underwater completely to about neck height. So obviously all of our stock is completely destroyed. Everything had fallen. Even higher shelves couldn't be protected. So
it came through. So if you look at the door, the roller doors, they're all bent. So it actually came through like a torrent.
Oh, so there's a lot of pace to it.
A lot of pace. So we can't get that roller door down or up now. So we've had the roller door.
Security issues and a lot of problems. No electricity, obviously, as well now. Yeah.
I was having a chat to some of the guys just around the corner from you, and they were saying that there was some flood maps issued on Saturday that told them that they weren't going to get hit.
Yeah, no one here thought that it was going to be like this. No. So the information that we received was that it wasn't going to flood. So we were only doing things precautionary, but so many businesses, because of the information, weren't actually even coming thinking that their business was at risk. But obviously, you know, the reality is when we came down Sunday morning that, you know, it was just absolutely devastating.
Okay, so what...
And that is one of the things that might be looked at is the warning and the time, because, you know, if everyone had got proper warning in a timely manner, they would have probably evacuated earlier and made some preparations, because many people did look at those flood maps, and many of them were also informed that they would not be in the flood-prone area. But of course, you know, it's always very hard to predict exactly, but, you know, a lot of these things could have been saved if the, you know, warnings were in place. But then, of course, looking at the second warning that came in with that big storm coming in, which never happened. But it is always good to have that warning, you know, and be prepared rather than being caught unprepared. But right now, let's go down south and take a look at the damage in Lismore.
From the sky, the floodwaters are a confronting sight. Despite water receding about 5 metres overnight, Lismore is still submerged. While the city remains flooded, residents who evacuated to higher ground are confronting the damage and heartache caused by this record-breaking natural disaster.
It's just a part of us showing him how much we love you, mate.
Crystal Bock and her sister Amanda hadn't heard from their father Stuart since Sunday. They were fearing the worst.
Last night it's kind of sunk in. Something really bad may have happened.
There was a report of a man who went down the storm drains on Sunday afternoon, and it's definitely been a big part of a fear that's been coming up for us a lot.
Their dad Stuart loved Lismore, had lived there for decades and knew it was flood prone.
Especially like Dad.
Yeah.
Like he's always...
Dad's always someone who bounces back on his feet, and he's always, you know, coming back from a lot of things in his life.
He's just got a heart of gold. Everyone would say that about him.
Later today, their worst fears were realised. Stuart Bock was found dead. His body recovered from the floodwaters this afternoon.
If my dad doesn't come back, never.
Fortunate scenes, and of course you can feel that emotion there as well. Many you know, scenes like this, and as we know, up till now about 9 lives have been lost to this flood event. Well, right now, before we go off to our upcoming events, we'll take a look at the international scene, and there was a horrible scene coming out of Ukraine.
A barricade bombed. For days, residents of Warne used whatever they could to protect Europe's biggest nuclear power station. But it wasn't enough to keep Russian forces back. A blaze breaking out after troops fired at the Zaporizhzhia power plant.
Europe has to wake up now. Russian tanks are shooting at nuclear reactor blocks.
Zaporizhzhia's 6 large nuclear reactors normally supply roughly 1/4 of Ukraine's power. The main concern with fire breaking out was damaging critical equipment used to keep spent fuel rods cool.
This is a rapidly evolving situation, and the fact that a nuclear power plant has been blockaded, is surrounded by military forces, is subject to fire with significant weapons, is an extremely concerning situation.
Nearby, Russia is attempting to tighten its grip on Ukraine's south. Medics race across the bombarded city of Mariupol. This 16-year-old boy was injured in a blast near a school. He was unable to be saved. Power has now been cut to the key port area, but it's held out for now. However, Russia is claiming it has control of Kherson, the first urban area in this war. The neighbouring city of Melitopol greeting Russian occupation with defiance. It's here in the coastal south that Russia has been making strategic advances. Kherson, now believed to be under Russian control, is part of their push to cut Ukrainian forces off from the sea. There are now fears for Ukraine's biggest port, Odessa, where Russian naval ships are reportedly approaching. To the east, Moscow is laying siege to the key city of Mariupol, while Ukraine's second largest city of Kharkiv is being pounded by heavy aerial bombardment and Russian paratroops on the ground. But there is no bigger prize than the capital. Moscow has ramped up assaults on the outskirts of Kiev. Homes in the firing line. The city's mayor says time is against them.
We're really counting hours here. Not months. We cannot wait for some conventions coming up in a couple of weeks and maybe making a decision what to do with that. We have no time. We need to act now.
Missiles continue to batter surrounding towns. At least 33 bodies were found in this rubble in the city of Chernihiv. Moscow confident in their progress.
Dear comrades, I want to say that the special military operation is proceeding strictly in line with the timetable according to plan. All the tasks that have been set are being successfully resolved.
The slower than expected Russian offensive has given Ukraine's military more time to mobilise. This line behind me is reservists learning how to shoot a gun for the first time.
The youngest here is 16 and the oldest is 68. War is already at our door, so we must do what we can.
As citizens do their bit, a second round of talks between Russia and Ukraine ended with no breakthrough, but they did agree on humanitarian corridors. The United Nations predicts a quarter of Ukraine's population could be displaced, a sobering message in the midst of war.
And Isabella Higgins joins us now from Lviv. Isabella, do we have an update of the situation at the nuclear power plant?
Well, Mary, this attack certainly sparked a lot of fear both here and abroad. Now, the imminent threat at that power station appears to be under control. Local emergency services say they put out the fire at the power station and that the nuclear reactor appears to be stable. However, Russian forces are now claiming control of that site. In recent days, they also claimed control of Chernobyl, the well-known site of the world's worst nuclear disaster. So this is concerning many, and some experts are describing Russia's new tactics of targeting nuclear power stations as incredibly reckless.
So yes, it is a disturbing situation there, and of course we'll keep an eye on it and bring to you reports as they happen. So ladies and gentlemen, right now it's time to get a message from our sponsors of the segment.
GlobeNet Realty. GlobeNet Realty has been the longest established, trusted and respected agency in its trade area. Washa Chandra, Director of GlobeNet Realty, provides honest and ethical service to her customers. If you are thinking of investing in Brisbane real estate market, or if you are seeking professional property management, then you should contact Usha Chandra today on landline 3865 4466 or mobile 0419 775 416. And for further updates, log on to our website www.globenetralty.com.au. GlobeNet Realty is your own local real estate agency. Situated at Shop 52281 Sandgate Road, Boondall. GlobeNet Realty. Real estate is our world.
And real estate is the well, and don't forget that every Wednesday we have the weekly real estate update with Usha Chandra right here on this channel. But right now, before we finish off, I'd like to just let you know that at 10 a.m. we will be joined by the Indian Medical Association of Queensland with their monthly show, Aapka Sehat, meaning your health. And that's coming up at 10 a.m. We'd like to, invite you all to come and join in that very informative session. Every topic, every episode is very beneficial. There's always something to be learned, and I'd like to, place on record our special appreciation and thanks to the Indian Medical Association of Queensland. Right now, here is some of the upcoming functions and events. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have time for you today. That match of the rugby one was yesterday. So, moving on, I'd like to once again remind you of our upcoming show at 10 a.m. Brisbane time is Aapki Sehat, meaning your health, a special presentation of Indian Medical Association of Queensland, and a very, very informative session coming up at 10. And don't forget that we would be back on Monday with the Daily India Report and the news updates, which is normally at 9 and 10. So some days we'll have two shows, then it's 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock. The days on which we have just one show would normally go 10 a.m. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been our pleasure to have your company. And once again, thank you very much for joining in. And once again, we are remembering Saint Warne at this point in time. It is still hard to come to terms with a grief at such a young age. Well, we'll catch you up back at 10 a.m. with the Indian Medical Association's Aapka Sehat. Until then, it's goodbye from me.